US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has recently announced a change to the United States' relationship with Taiwan. This has far-reaching implications for America's relationship with China and also Taiwan itself. Joining us to discuss this is CRA analyst Nicholas Babaya. Nicholas, could you give our viewers an understanding of what were these diplomatic changes that Pompeo made and what are the implications thereof?
Yes, David. Outgoing Secretary of State from America, Mike Pompeo, in the last few days of his term, removed self-imposed restrictions on official meetings between US diplomats and Taiwanese officials. Now, why this is such a big issue is because of the US's diplomatic relationships with the People's Republic of China. And this is done under the basis of something called the One China policy. And that is the idea that Taiwan is an inseparable part of China, and that any countries who want to have official bilateral diplomatic relationships with China must at least accept this, even if they do so tacitly. So what this entails is that any countries who want to have a diplomatic mission in Taiwan cannot have a consulate or an embassy or an ambassador or a consul, etc. They have to have some other name, some other thing that indicates that these relations do exist, but are not official bilateral relations, as China would not be okay with that. Now, although America still officially does have bilateral relationships with China, they've been edging away at this over time, and a lot of it has taken the form of being much closer to Taiwan. And every little step they've gone closer is always a bit of a thorn in the side of Beijing, and I think a lot of it is aimed at putting pressure on Beijing or showing that they're supporting ostensibly Beijing's enemies. So this is quite a large step that the State Department took, especially considering it was literally within the last few days. And the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs reacted as many thought they would, simply condemning the actions and saying that, quote, history would judge the United States for defying the norms of international relations. So this was quite a large step, and it is intriguing that this happened just a few days before Joe Biden is scheduled to be sworn in.
All right, so what's stopping the incoming Biden administration from simply reversing this decision?
Well, that's a very good question. And I think it really comes down to two things. The first is that over the 4 years of the Trump administration, US-China relations have obviously reached quite a low point in their history. So there's a lot of damage which may have already been done from the Trump administration. And although Biden can try to fix that, I think a lot of the damage may be somewhat permanent. Then there's the other side, and that is that opinions of China in the United States are at an all-time low. And if Biden were to do anything which might be perceived as being soft on China, there might be great political ramifications for him within the United States. Now, on top of this, you have to understand that the Democratic Party and Joe Biden have, generally speaking, placed themselves as having somewhat of a less hawkish foreign policy. We saw this a little bit with President Obama and his interactions with Russian officials. The big reset button was the whole thing. So Joe Biden is stuck in a very difficult situation. He's publicly been against Donald Trump's China policy. He's been against the trade war. But simultaneously, that's not a very popular position to have within the US. And even if he were to try to pursue better relations with China, that may be severely hindered by a lot of damage that has been done by the Trump administration in his 4 years. So this last salvo sent off by Secretary Pompeo is very intriguing. I think it's going to leave the Biden administration with yet another headache to deal with about how they approach the issue of China.
Nicholas, why does Taiwan matter? And specifically, why does this relationship with the People's Republic of China have such significant consequences for the region and the rest of the world?
Taiwan is a very interesting case of international relations. Officially, many countries accept that Taiwan is a part of China, although in reality, Taiwan has essentially governed itself since the end of the Second World War, and the Kuomintang retreated from the mainland China following the Chinese Revolution. Now, what this has meant is that although on paper, many countries accept China's legal jurisdiction over the island of Taiwan, Taiwan has essentially governed itself as an independent state ever since. And the way that both China and Taiwan have been able to have peaceful relations, have been able to have exchanges of trade and people, have flights and transport, is through an idea called strategic ambiguity. in which they agree on paper that Taiwan and China are both part of the same country, so to speak, but they disagree on the exact interpretation of that. In addition to this, there's also a sort of strategic ambiguity between the United States' support for Taiwan and its tacit agreement to the One China policy. This is so that Taiwan would not do anything too radical if it knew that the US was supporting it militarily, like declare independence, let's say. And likewise, Beijing would also not be too radical and propose a military takeover of the island if it always knew that there was the possibility for the United States to come to Taiwan's aid. So it leaves a very ambiguous yet simultaneously peaceful scenario. And that is the kind of situation that Taiwan finds itself in today. Although it's very likely, with the deterioration of US-China relations and changing political opinions within Taiwan society itself, that things may change. And so it's a very important part of East Asia to understand if you are to understand regional geopolitics, and especially China's future, as in the next few decades, there may be some major developments on Taiwan.
Well, thank you very much, Nicholas. I certainly hope that that delicate balance is maintained over the next few years. If you enjoyed this content, please remember to give the video a like and also subscribe to our channel and join the 2,000 subscribers who follow our daily updates. I wanted to also extend a special thank you to those 2,000 subscribers who've been following us from the beginning. We are certainly very happy to have you join us. And to new subscribers, welcome to the channel. My name is David Ansara. Please remember to join us next time for the next video. And until then, take care.